Now let me throw you another strategy. Let's say you have the IRA. First of all, could we do this in an HSA? Health savings account. The answer is yes. What is a health savings account? It's a Roth IRA with two exceptions. The money doesn't come out for retirement, it comes out for healthcare costs. And the money that goes into an HSA, unlike a Roth, is tax deductible. What's the qualification for an HSA? It has nothing to do with your income. It's what kind of insurance do you have. If you have qualifying health insurance, and your agent will know right away, you just tell them, give me a list of HSA qualifying insurance, and by the way, does my insurance qualify? Now, some of you have such good insurance at your job, especially if you work for the state or big corporate, that insurance is so much better than HSA qualifying insurance, you probably won't switch. Fair enough. If you qualify, the HSA is tax deductible going in, and it's tax deductible in a good place, not Schedule A. It's what's known as above the line. Just trust me, it's a good place on your return to take deductions. Everything I've said about IRAs in terms of growing the money applies. I use medical tourism. I go to Chile. I'll be doing some this summer. When I'm in Chile, I get things done. One time, my insurance company didn't want to cover my sinuses. They told me I wasn't in pain and it didn't hurt. And I'm like, what? They wouldn't cover it. So I went to Chile. I found one of their better doctors, trained outside the country, serves the top 5% of their population, came well referred, and we made a deal. Now, it was weird. It was very different than American healthcare. A, I knew how much I was going to pay before we did everything. B, there were no insurance agents, attorneys, or government bureaucrats involved. He and I had a private deal. I paid him cash, and my HSA reimbursed me. It cut me a check. I paid him cash, probably because we'll see if he reports that or not my issue. He gave me a receipt and just asked me to make sure the receipt leave the country with me. I had a receipt, so I reimbursed myself from my HSA. I got excellent service. It was about 20% of the cost in the United States, and it being Latin America, the nurses were much better looking. It worked well. I do a lot of diagnostic stuff. Scans, CAT scans, MRIs, various types of testing are way cheaper down there, as long as you pick your doctor right. And a lot of places increasingly there are getting American accreditation. So I go down there and do that. I did not structure it so the whole trip would be payable through my HSA because I stayed in Chile long enough to hang out with family, which is theoretically a pleasurable experience and not related to my healthcare issues. I did not write off the whole trip, but there are ways you would be able to do that, basically the medical tourism. Health expenses is a very broad term, very broad. For example, here's a good rule. If your doctor prescribes it, it's probably qualified. There's case law that says if you have a doctor prescribe a swimming pool for bad back or bad heart, that's a medical expense. That can be paid out of the HSA. So I want you thinking in terms of a very broad term. This is especially important for those of you into alternative medicine. Different types of things would qualify through that. If you qualify for an HSA, please set it up tonight. It'll take you 15 minutes. There are two types. I want you to have both. You only need to set up one tonight. I have one HSA with Chase Bank. It cost me about $3 a month, and it took me about 15 minutes to set up. It's not self-directed. The money in there earns no interest. The money just sits there. It has a debit card. When I use the doctor, I give him the debit card. He runs it. Boom. Why do I want that one? It's easy to deal with. You have a separate self-directed one, and you can roll between the two. So you say this much money is going to be a reserve to pay medical expenses. This much money is going to grow. And here's the key why I want you to set it up tonight. You can reimburse yourself for any medical costs that you incur as long as the HSA existed. You go put $100 into an HSA today if you qualify. Any medical costs you incur from today onward that you paid physically out of pocket. Guys, write your questions down. I am going to leave time.
I was just going to ask if you can repeat that.
Okay. You want two HSAs. One cheap set up with Chase or your bank. It's the one that actually pays expenses. It just holds money to pay medical expenses. The second one is self-directed, and you can roll money between them. The self-directed one is where you put money that's going to grow and you're not going to touch. Well, John, how can I afford to let it grow? What if I have medical expenses that are more than I have in the HSA? Pay it out of pocket. Maybe in the beginning you don't pay anything out of the HSA. Maybe all of it grows. pay everything out of pocket, as long as the HSA existed, the HSA can one day reimburse you. So it ultimately ends up being tax-free. How long do you have to reimburse yourself? There's no limit. Get the HSA set up so that all the costs incurred now going forward can be reimbursed in the future. Grow it. I just gave you one technique. There are plenty more.